the stuff we did shaped a generation, which is like crazy.
Well, it's just shaped an industry of like business too.
Yes.
When hearing about the first companies to like sell their production companies, that was all through our lifetime. That never happened before. People that we knew selling their companies for $50 million, we were just broke kids producing TV, right? It's wild.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for being with me here at Reppin. I'm your host, Evelyn, and today I've got a great guest joining us. He's not just a producer, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and angel investor. He's the visionary behind MIBE Music. From his early days as a music producer and editor at VH1, MTV, Sony Studios, to co-founding Vidiots, 20,000 square foot post-production facility in New York's West Village. He has left a significant mark on the world of entertainment. And I can vouch, because our paths crossed when we worked at MTV. He has been the creative force behind projects like Beyoncé's Pepsi commercial, the NBA Finals opener for ESPN, and Discovery Channel's Dirty Money. He's also a multiple Emmy Award winner, with accolades for his outstanding work in sports and live event specials. But that's not all. His latest exciting venture is Indelible, a cutting-edge company bringing tattoo culture to the Web3 space. Indelible is revolutionizing how NFT owners can monetize their IP rights by adding tattoos to their NFT characters. And get this, he's also earned a spot in the Guinness World Record for having the most insects tattooed on his body. Right now, he's got over 864 tattoos. And you might be surprised, he doesn't love bugs. But he's here to give us more insight on this and all about his journey and his groundbreaking projects right now. Please, give a warm welcome to Mike Amoia. Mike, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course.
You and I share a lot of history together, being from MTV and stuff like that. But now you've moved on to so many. I don't know, is there something that you don't do? Because you're an angel investor, you're a philanthropist, you're a businessman.
I don't do everything well, but I do a couple things good.
No, you do things very well.
No, a couple things.
You're a very successful businessman.
Thank you.
I think in many ways you're a philosopher also.
Okay, didn't see that.
You're an Emmy Award-winning producer, and now you're starting a new business called Indelible.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk to people about what it is and what you're hoping to do?
Sure. Yeah. Indelible's kind of made a bunch of like pivots along the way, but originally started as like a Web3 company. We were really hot on taking people's NFTs and licensing them, and actually taking tattoo artists in real life and drawing tattoos on the NFTs and dropping them like a collection. And the impetus or reason why we did that was because we were trying to help people monetize their IP rights, because in the NFT world, people had these little NFT characters and they're like, what do you do with them? Right? Nobody knew what to do. And I'm like, do I make money? What do I do? Let us license it from you and we'll help you monetize off of it. But that whole Web3 market went on its head. So we pivoted the company a little bit. Basically what we are now, at the core of it, we're tattoo culture as far as the identity of what we do. And we like to say we're a fashion brand, like Chrome Hearts is to motorcycle culture, how Supreme is to skateboard culture, we're to tattoo cultures. So we're not putting tattoos on shirts or anything like that. It just has a little bit of a history of tattooing, but we're a fashion brand. So we're dropping a line of clothes and jewelry, and we're going to go direct to consumer. And how we're implementing the sort of NFT Web3 side of it is basically we're going to have a countdown, and before it goes live to the public, NFT holders will get first dibs and they get discounts and free claims. So we're using it as like a membership reward system. And the goal is down the road, as the value of the brand gets bigger, the NFTs become more valuable so they can trade them on the secondary market. So imagine, you bought a membership ticket. It doesn't even need to be a Web3. You just bought a membership ticket at Supreme.
Right.
And they only made 1,000 of them. And all of a sudden, Supreme became this billion-dollar company. And now those memberships that you paid $100 for are worth, $10,000, and you can sell it because we're making only a limited amount, and that's it. So it's going to be 1,042 of them.
I have always admired your business sense because I think NFTs is something that people still don't understand. The fact that you're doing it in this way is really creative. So I think you've been always somebody that's been able to incorporate business sense with your creative side. Is that fair to say?
I mean, I think it's more about finding a use case for it in the sense that every time new technology comes out, people always use the word bridge the gap. that phrase. I don't believe in that phrase. I believe force the gap, right? You got to force people over the bridge, right? So how do you do that? You got to get people to want something, and then they'll learn about a new technology or downloading an app that they got to figure out and putting money in there that they're scared to put money in. So for us, it was always this 80-20 rule with Indelible. We're going to go 80% on NFTs, 20% on our real life giveaways. And then we flipped it the other way, depending on what the market happens. So right now we're on 80% product, 20% Web3. It's creative, but it's more just strategy, just thinking ahead of like, just try to stay ahead of the curve a little bit, try to stay relevant and do something a little different. I don't know. I like to do shit that's different.
Yeah, I know you do. And I think the thing that's really interesting, it's on your website, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have it in front of me, but the tattoo culture was born in the shadows in many ways. And at that particular point back in history, anyone that had a tattoo would be deemed as an outcast. I'm just paraphrasing. And now the tattoo culture has become very mainstream, and it caters to the super, super elite all the way to the regular Joe. And you're taking that and combining it with NFTs, which is new technology, and being creative with it, I think is a really awesome thing. And it has a lot to do with identity too. One of the conversations that we have on the podcast, or I try to have, is that we're all labeled in different ways, and we're all seen based on instantaneous knee-jerk reactions. Like, I'm Asian American and a woman, so it must be quiet and meek. And Lord knows anyone who knows me, that's not the case. You also are the Guinness Book of World Records holder in 2021, I believe. 864 insect tattoos on your face, right? Or all over you. I'm sure you've superseded that by now, right?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I face a lot of judgment just as me. What kind of things have you had to face based on the instantaneous impression?
Yeah. First of all, I'm not a tattoo artist. I'm just a collector. When I got tattooed 30 years ago, it wasn't as popular as it is.
Yeah.
We met in production, and Miami Inc. was one of the first reality shows for tattooing, and they did the post-production out of my place.
Yeah.
And I remember that changed the whole landscape of the culture. But anyway, moving forward to your question, for me, I think it's the best decision I've ever made. When you walk into the room and the bar is set low and you can actually speak a certain way, it actually makes you seem smarter than you really are. So it actually is a power that people don't realize. Because as soon as you walk in the room, you're like, oh, this guy looks like an idiot. Then you start talking, wow, this guy's wickedly smart. No, I'm just like every other person.
Yeah.
That actually can put a sentence together.
You're a lot more than that.
But I'm just saying, it's, in a room filled with suit and ties, I stand out. And now, how do you stand out? It's the question. And that's the power, right? You can stand out in a negative way. You can stand out in a positive way. So it is like a gift if you can see it that way. And if you can utilize it as a power, it's very powerful. It's actually opened up a lot of doors for me.
Right.
It's closed a lot. It's closed a lot really quick. So it saved me a lot of time. And it's opened up ones really wide because the people that really fuck with me. So it actually helped. I'm happy I did it because it's just me.
Yeah.
I just became me. That's it. I'm not doing anything else but just trying to be myself.
I think that takes a lot of courage and strength, regardless of whether you have tattoos or not. From my point of view, when I'm walking around the city or anywhere else, everyone's trying to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. Try to be somebody by wearing X or being seen at this place because it's trendy. They're trying to send a story or tell a story.
Absolutely.
And I think it takes a lot more courage to be authentic.
Some people don't have stories. That's the other side of it.
That's very sad if you don't have a story.
Well, some people don't have deep stories. That's the thing. The closer you are to death, the more you are to life. The more stories you have and you live through, the deeper you are and the deeper you can connect with people, right?
Right.
Because you can really see the big picture. As long as you can go ground floor and not stay too high level, you got to bounce back and forth. But
yeah,
that's how I see it. I don't know. It's in a weird spiritual way. I feel like people go through life multiple times and maybe this is just their first go around. They haven't really experienced it a couple times more like I have.
You don't see yourself as a philosopher. Come on, man.
Nah. I never looked at it that way.
I think your viewpoints are always interesting. Now, again, you and I have shared history because you started at MTV as an assistant editor, and then you and your brother really came up the ranks. And I think it's safe to say that when I was at MTV, everyone knew about the Amoia brothers and how talented you were in terms of editing. And then you started a post facility, which I worked at and was one of the best post facilities that I worked at because we were there endless, ungodly hours, but it was lovely.
Fun times.
You were someone that I've always just seen hustle. you've worked so hard and you break your ass and you've never been anything other than kind and grounded. And I think somebody that's reached the levels of successes in different genres too are not always able to stay grounded. For you, what is it that helps you stay focused?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that you said a lot of the thrust that keeps you going was anger. Based on my research, you were saying like you were scared of everything
Mm-hmm.
and you were angry at everything. But before we even get there, tell me a little bit about the tattoo situation, because obviously it's all over you.
Yeah.
I know you hate bugs and you have bugs all over the place.
I know.
You do wear it as armor.
What's the word? Like a walking conundrum or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like
It's interesting. Tell me a little bit about what sort of was the catalyst of this that sparked it and how are you using it as armor?
It's a little bit of a long story and I try to summarize it sometimes, but basically, I went through a traumatic experience as a kid where I got misdiagnosed with leukemia. I went through dialysis. I actually dropped a tab of acid. So it was like a really horrific time in my life where I really thought there was no hope. Thought I was going to die. I was getting poked every week. I was afraid of needles. I just grew up around a lot of fear instilled in me. And it was just becoming like almost like a personal jail cell. It was like, I just couldn't live. And then when I dropped acid, I remember having these visuals of dying. I was having all these flashbacks for over a year. I was like hallucinating and tripping out for over a year. It was like, it almost felt like it was never going to go away. It was really scary. So I never did drugs after that. But when I was having these visuals, I was imagining myself dying and bugs eating at my body. And I started to face my fears by reading up on them. And then as I read up on what insects meant, they had like all these powerful messages. It was wild. I was like, wait a second. I'm thinking these things are evil and they're going to destroy me, but they can protect me.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I'm going to get something that means something to me. So I decided to tattoo my whole body as like armor to protect myself. So different bugs mean different things and they're positioned at different parts of my body. You know, a dragonfly means deep in inner thought. I have it on my temple. When people go like this, you're thinking, right? So like things like that, I have different ones all over my body. And now it's just become a full suit of a life journey. And I told myself as a kid, when I finish it, I'm ready to move on to pass this life. So not that I'm going to kill myself, but I'll be prepared to die. And I'm not yet, but I'm not scared of it. That's the beauty of it. And that's why I love life. I want to live, but I'm not scared of dying, but I'm not ready to yet.
There's no one that I know of that can go through life without being hurt or challenged. Then when you get to that point, it's a choice of what you do with it. Was there a specific moment where you learned to take this fear and this anger? Because I can't even imagine what you've gone through when you were like misdiagnosed with leukemia and you weren't, and then you had to go through all these horrible things.
You know what's so crazy? I saw an article yesterday about how tattoos could give you lymphoma.
Are you serious?
I was like, the irony of that. I looked at it and I was like, I'm not reading too deep into that, but imagine the full circle journey of that story.
Dude, don't even throw that paper away. But was there a moment when you were going through this that was a turning point? Because here you are, you just got misdiagnosed. You just went through this hell of being poked and prodded with all this fear. What helped you make that turn to make it into something that empowered you, that gave you a positive viewpoint, and you didn't let it eat you alive?
It was all survival skills that were like, you had to learn. Imagine being put out in the middle of nowhere and you just have to figure it out. And I just did. The one thing I was just tired of doing is hearing myself complain also. I just can't stand myself sometimes when I complain or I'm negative, and I can be negative and I have to reset. So from an outsider looking in, you may see my life journey as like just at this upward smooth trajectory, but it's been, stagnant. It's been going up, going down. It's been a bumpy road up because 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right?
Right.
But really it's just that. It's just constantly looking at myself saying, how do I make myself better? How do I get myself in a situation? Stop complaining, stop relying on people. So just rely on myself, build some value. When you walk into a room, don't look at it and go, oh, why me and why are you not helping me? No, what are you bringing to the table? I mean nothing. In a lot of rooms, even till today, no matter where I walk in, I'm starting from zero. You're meeting at a common ground saying, what am I bringing to the table that these people want to deal with me?
Right.
Just in a business standpoint. And if you start there mentally, it's a good strategic move to help level up because you're thinking about moving up the ladder as opposed to just saying, look at me and look what I have and you should be bowing down.
Right.
That's not how the world works.
You've met some other people that don't subscribe to that same thought, right, Mike?
Yeah. And some of them have gotten lucky and a lot of them have been their own detriment to failure.
Yeah.
Right.
But that doesn't stop them from forgetting about everybody else. Now, fear and anger, that's something that can actually consume a person quite easily. And I think a lot of what's happening in society is fear-based.
Absolutely.
How did you learn how to convert that anger and not let that anger drive you and you control the anger? Because it's one thing to be like, yeah, I want to level up my game and do this. People don't know how to do that.
I mean, it's a very simple choice. Either you want to end up in jail or you want to end up trying to succeed. That's how simple it is. People don't realize it, but when you're angry, the first thing you want to do is go out and run in the street and punch somebody in the face, right? But that doesn't help anything. That doesn't solve any issues, right?
Right.
And it's emotional. You're working off your emotions. And I think that's the key is like, how do I control my emotions when I was born as like a very emotional kid?
Okay.
You know, being an emotional kid, I said, okay, how do I turn emotions into passion and organize it into a strategy to like grow and be a business person and actually do creative with my emotions as opposed to letting my emotions get the best of me. And that's the key. A lot of people react off their emotions. And I always say the most emotionally mature people are the most successful ones usually. And when you're surrounded by like billionaires, sometimes they're emotionless, right?
Yes.
When you see them and just the way they maneuver, little things don't bother them. There's something to be said for that. We can hate on some people that are succeeding in that regard, or you can look at them and say, you know what, that's a good skill set to have sometimes.
Right.
But you also can't be emotionless to certain things. You have to be an emotionally available person, but you just have to have control over it. That's the key.
That's so hard to do, though.
It is. It is.
I mean, you're a human.
No, it is. It is. But it's less hard to do when you understand it better, when you're structuring your organization, your operation as such, right? If you don't get involved in certain things, if you learn how to separate yourself in a structure, it usually disconnects you to certain things. So that's good. If you get too involved in the emotional aspect of your business, sometimes it starts to poke at you, right? Yeah, I mean, it is hard, but what's easy in life? I don't think anything is, right?
That's true. But I think your choices of how you've been able to convert or transcend that emotion that can be so overwhelming is very difficult. Not only are you like an awesome editor, which you don't do anymore, but like your entrepreneurial skills, everything that you've learned business-wise, you're self-taught, right?
Yeah, self-taught. Yeah. I didn't go to business school.
How did you, because some people don't even understand where to begin. And I think your hustle and your work ethic, where did that come from?
The hustle and the work ethic came from just being like, I need to find a career to survive. The business acumen and learning business came from, I think I equate it more to like when I was doing audio engineering or I was editing. It's as an audio engineer, you're working with producers, you're working with creatives. As an editor, you're working with producers, you're working with creatives.
Right.
So one, you have to learn the skill set of being in control of a situation, but bowing down to somebody and listening to them, right? So that's business. No matter if you have an employee or you have a client, you're still dealing with that dynamic. So that part is covered. And then as far as the editorial aspect of it, the organizational structure of how to put a show together is similar to a business, right? All right, how do we do that? We got to do that in steps. You don't just throw everything at the wall. You don't just do it all chaotically. So editing taught me a lot of like structure, and then you figure out communication flow, and then you figure out how to deal with people. And then you really just have to have some sort of understanding for human beings and say, what are you trying to get out of this? What am I trying to get out of this? Let's find close to a middle ground. Usually it's never in the middle, but listening to people goes such a long way. A lot of the main positions in all my businesses have been females, which is fun.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And it wasn't intentional.
Why is that, you think?
I don't know. I feel like females are very loyal. And if you wrong them, it's going to be really bad. But if you treat them right, it'll be really good.
Are you speaking professionally or personally?
All professionally. All professionally. For personally is a whole other story. No, but I've always loved working with females. I love that energy of female leaders and how they really care about what they do. I mean, I'm just generalizing, but with men, it's a different energy, right? Positives and negatives, but like females just really care overall. But to the point where it's, if you don't hear that, if you don't listen to them, it's going to be a problem.
Right.
So it forces you to make sure that they're being heard, which is good.
Okay. First of all, when you think businessman, you're not the person that comes to mind. And then business sense, like being the stereotype of business is cold, calculating, driven world. There is no time for humanity. You've never been that way. Even back in the MTV days when you were doing your post-production company, and now you've obviously branched off into the music company, which I want to get to as well. You've never lost your sense of humanity. And I think in various interviews that you've done, you've said you don't ever want to lose sight of the humanity in the business. Where did that come from? Was there an incident where you were treated some way and you sort of clocked it and you made sure not to make that mistake?
I mean, I'm a very dark thinker.
Really?
And I look around at the world and I say, we are all walking dead, right? We're all going to be dead at a certain point. So seeing death is a gift. Like I was saying before, the thing that happened to me as a childhood was a gift because it taught me humanity. It taught me that, you know what, at a certain level, you got to step back and say, does it really matter? It does because it's survival, but in certain aspects, it doesn't. And I think balancing that out is the forever ending thing that I'm trying to figure out, how to properly balance that out. And I'm keep curating a way to do that and making it better and better over time. But people are people and I'm empathetic and I care about humans.
Right.
And I love having solid friends. And you get let down by people a lot of times, but a lot of times it's just personal stuff they got going on. It's not even about you. So I don't know. I just shift to different parts of my brain. If it's a friend thing or if it's a business thing, you know, if I'm getting something out of it that I need to and I'm giving something, it makes sense. If I'm only getting something and I'm not giving something, I can understand the position. It's how people handle things. It's not what they do. It's how they do it.
Yes.
I think is a really important thing.
Did everybody else miss that memo?
There's a lot of narcissists out there that just people are just in their own world, you know?
Right.
They can't step out of it. The first day we opened up Vidiots back in the day, it was a post facility. We had like 5,000 square feet at the time. And the first client to walk through the door, I remember taking myself out of my body and putting myself into their body and looking at them look at me. I was like, how do they see this place? That's what I thought, right?
Okay.
And a lot of people don't think like that, I realized. A lot of people like, look at me, I'm the business guy. Look at my place, look how great I am. That's not what it's about. We're a customer service business. 99% of the businesses, like nobody's a boss at a certain point. We're all answering to somebody. We're all serving. And to me, it's what am I trying to push forward? I don't care about somebody coming in saying they own the place or whatever. I don't care. I want somebody to feel comfortable. In my environment. I want somebody to feel ownership in my environment. It's not an ego thing.
Right.
It's not an insecure thing. It's a growth thing for me. I want to grow as a person and learn. And as long as I keep having opportunities in life, if I treat people good, I'll get more opportunities and I keep growing. That's how I see it.
Let me go one step further. I think you've always had the mentality of let me create opportunities as well. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Definitely was not waiting around and I always have to be doing something. It's probably just like my neurotic behavior of just always, you know, don't want to be in my own head too.
Right.
As much as I feel, you know, portray myself to have everything super tight and all together, leave me alone in a room and I have a lot of crazy thoughts. So I got to keep my mind occupied.
Okay.
To keep the machine moving and oiled.
Right. I love what you said also, because again, the stereotypes, we all have stereotypes regardless of who you are.
Yeah.
But you said it closed a lot of doors for you, the amount of tattoos that you have, but it also opened up a lot. And I love that because it really allows you to figure out who's an asshole and who's not, and who's bullshit and who's not.
Absolutely.
And who's real. When you first started doing this, I'm sure people were like, what the fuck are you doing? This is going to hurt your jobs and stuff like that.
They still say it.
They still say it, right?
Right.
And you're obviously acutely aware of that. What's the reaction that you get?
It's great. The city it's got pockets of a lot of shady behavior, so I can walk right through it. No problem. I look like I fit the mold, you know?
Right.
Right.
you are one of the most grounded people. So when you say you have all of these judgments when you walk in the door.
I don't know if I do.
Okay.
I guess I do, but I don't see it. It's funny when I'm with a lot of my friends and like we walk through a restaurant, they'll be like, people are looking at you. I don't see it. I don't really pay attention to it.
Right.
And it's cool. You know why? Because I was also an introvert as a kid, and it's actually helped me, it's opened me up, because people are bold and they approach you and say stuff like off the cuff that could be perceived as insulting, but I don't take it as an insult. I'm like, I appreciate people trying to engage with me. And none of it hurts my feelings, because one, if we're not making money together, 9 times out of 10, I can really care less, like what you say, right?
Okay.
And if you're insulting me, it doesn't really bother me, because 9 times out of 10, I look where it's coming from. And it's usually a person that's like, I don't want to live in their shoes anyway.
Right.
And if somebody did insult me that I actually respect and care about, it just gives me more fuel to succeed. Yeah, I don't really see it. I don't really care about that type of stuff of like the looks. At a certain point, it's me, and that's it.
I know. That's lovely.
There's no way it's going to change. Nobody's going to say anything to stop me from doing anything that I want to do. And because everything that I do, I'm not doing anything destructive to anybody else. They may perceive it as destructive to me, and that's their perspective.
That's their optics. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's false.
I love the sense of self. I wish more people had it and more people check themselves. Now, you also started a music publishing company. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. Before I started editing, I was doing audio engineering and I was writing music and stuff. So I had a lot of friends in the music business. And one in particular is a friend of mine named Pete Zapina, who is a really good friend of mine, became like a solid person that I can rely on. And as I was running Vidiots, I was like, you know what? We have this opportunity to create a music publishing company. We can get it in some of our client shows or our own productions.
Right.
So I called my friend Pete and said, you want to help me with this business? So he came in and he helped me build it from the ground floor as I was running Vidiots. And I was like working with him day in, day out to just help build the company. And then it just took off because we had the access to the clients. That was the hardest part for a lot of music publishers. So basically, I called one of my friends that was making beats for Eric Sermon. And I was like, what do you have that Eric didn't pick up? And he's like, I have like 50 songs that Eric didn't want. I said,
you took it.
Give me those songs. So it was like that. And then we were doing like MTV Cribs.
Yeah.
We had HBO 24/7 posting out of our place. We had NFL packages, NBA finals. Like we were doing all these cool shows. So once the music got in the shows, they would sit on the royalty statements and the cue sheets, and all the other artists would see our artists on these cue sheets with these shows, and they wanted to be down with us. So they would hit us up.
Yep.
So we had an influx of composers. At one point, we had 2,000 composers.
Holy sh!
Yeah. And we actually cut 1,500 composers out of the catalog intentionally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because it was becoming too much of a marketplace, and it was also getting diluted. We wanted to make sure we took care of the artists that are actually working with us, the loyal ones, the ones that were good, and more money for them and less volume. More volume from them with more money.
Yeah.
But
the care was always there.
Less dilution. Yeah, less dilution of like spreading it out over 2,000 people. And it's been amazing. It's been working really well.
See, that's another example of you doing business, but not losing sight of caring about people. Do you know what I'm saying?
In business, it's like people will say they care about people, but also it's like you have to. I mean, intentionally, if you don't take care of people, they won't take care of you. It's as kumbaya as it may sound. Some of it is selfishly done. I'm going to be honest.
Sure. Of course.
I'm like, I want to build a business and I want to be successful as a business owner. And I also want that energy of the team that everybody wins. I love that feeling.
Yeah, I agree.
For me, if I was, screwing everybody over and I was making so much money, it wouldn't feel the same way to me.
Right.
So how do we all win together? And that's the beauty of this business is everybody gets paid from a third party through the back end royalties. It's called the PROs, which is like BMI, ASCAP, CSEC. So none of that money hits our books. We're not getting calls saying, hey, did you steal my money or anything like that? So it's very clean business, which I love. So it's like you win, we win. We're going to help you. You're going to help us. And that arrangement has been working. We're 7.5, 8 years in that business. It's been going really good.
See, that's what I love. Just going back, and I've edited obviously in multiple post facilities. And I think I may have said to you 100 years ago, like, can you come and decorate my apartment? Because the place is beautiful.
Right.
I'm bringing this up because the sense of you putting yourself in other people's shoes and community, your sense of community, where did that come from?
First of all, I love interior design. I mean, it's like I'm like a little Martha Stewart over here with tattoos.
Yeah, you definitely could pass for a Martha.
Yeah, tattooed Martha Stewart. But like the walls were painted the same color as my bedroom in Vidiots, because to me, it's always been like I never had a comfortable environment to live in. So I love to like set my environment up. So I look at architectural design magazines all the time.
Yeah.
It's my obsession.
It was an awesome fucking place.
Well, you know, the timing of that place was interesting because back in the day before that, it was really big boutiques for having like pool tables and client services.
Right.
Then it became chop shops, creating like all these little rooms, low budgets.
Yep.
And then we hit it right when HD just came out. And we were like, let's bring a little bit of that boutique-ish back. So that's why we set up the rooms bigger.
So comfortable.
We made them more plush. So the timing was everything for us.
It was one of the most comfortable post facilities and also accommodating, and it was fun to be there.
We got really lucky. I like to say I'm smart. That wasn't a smart move. That was a lucky move. We were hustlers. We were working our ass off, but we were lucky. The timing was everything because I didn't know anything about business back then. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. That timing was like perfect timing of dropping a post facility where everybody used to say, why would you open up a post facility now? It's dead. Then we found a white space in the industry and saying, hey, wait, there's all these companies that still do high-end stuff. They don't want to pay like a premium, but they'll play like a mid-tier premium. And there's a model there. And we just, I don't know, organically just did it. It wasn't even conscious. It was so weird. I think we had a business plan that just didn't even make sense on the books. I was like, how are we going to pull this off?
But you did.
Yeah, we did.
You guys did.
22 years.
And major clients.
You did.
And, you know, editing, for people who don't know, I mean, you're just there for ungodly amount of hours and times. Like you're literally living there. And it's so hard to be comfortable. Your place was always amazing. And your sense of community, was that something that you grew up with? And how did you continue to never lose sight of that?
In what regards?
For example, community. You want to take care of your people, even though, yes, there is a selfish reason to it because you want to make money, right?
Yeah.
But how many people don't give a shit about that? Your sense of community and saying, okay, yes, you want to make money. You got to take care of people.
Okay.
That's the hypothesis that everyone shares, but not everybody executes it. You do. So your sense of community and never losing sight of taking care of people, because also beyond your business ventures, your successful business ventures, you do give back to the community. You do help underprivileged children. You are a philanthropist as well.
Yeah, I never looked at it that way, but I love, it's such a great feeling to help people out. People don't realize that when you can help somebody out, it's awesome. And I do it as much as I can, but also try to protect myself because you do have to be shrewd. And I am a shrewd business person too, but you also have to, be giving. And I was always feeling people's pains when I was a kid. I think it just comes from just how I was born. As I got older, I was like, if I see somebody that I can help, it's evolution. I don't look at people like competition. I look at people like allies. I love for my friends to succeed because if they succeed, even if I don't get any piece of it, it's just awesome to hear the stories and learn. I invest in companies just so I can learn what's happening inside the businesses. And if my friends are succeeding, I have a direct call to them.
Yeah.
It's a flex to say, oh, my friend runs this big company. It's awesome. I love it. I love when people succeed around me. And if anything that I've done that I can help, I've always will offer my advice with a preface to say, it worked for me. I don't know if it's going to work for you, but this is what I've experienced. So take it how you want, because that's the key. There's no blueprint for this stuff.
Right.
It's all has to be amendable to where you're at and what you're doing and what your skill sets are. There's so many variables to it. It's really fascinating to dissect the business. I think people don't promote the psychology learning of business. Like I feel like that is the most important thing of business. The psychology of business is the most important skill set to learn as opposed to the traits of business. Obviously you should learn basic economics and learn how to read P&Ls and balance sheets and all that stuff. But I'm saying like the psychology of dealing with business is the most important thing.
How'd you learn that for you?
Just trial and error, and thankful that I've had a long run because think about it. I have 25 years under my belt of experience of more. Stupid people don't learn from their mistakes, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
So
it's happening a lot though, isn't it?
Yeah, people make the same mistakes over and over again, and it was never really me. I've always tried to but it's tough. It takes work to change.
You seem like this guy that's like unstoppable in many ways. And I know that's not true because you're human.
Yeah.
Again, it's just not possible. So was there one experience where you hit a road bump that was so challenging that you almost threw in the towel. What was happening and what did you learn from it?
I hit it with Indelible a couple times.
Oh, shit.
Yes, I put a lot of money into Indelible. I would get up every day and it was the biggest kick in the nuts of that business. And I'm like, I have my other company that's making me money and it's way less painful. And I got this one and I just turned 50 years old. I was 48, 49 at the time. And I'm like, man, what am I doing? Like I've been grinding my whole life to get my life to a point where I can get it smooth sailing.
Right.
And I just gave myself a headache. Then I woke up one day and I was just like, yeah, but this is the challenge. This is what it's about. Life is throwing this at me. You got to try to overcome this. And if at a certain point you got to throw the towel in, it's a learning lesson. You got to pivot out of it or do something else. But I wasn't ready to give up on it. So there was a lot of moments. There was a lot of stress. I pulled a lot of favors for that company. A lot of my friends came and supported me. When all my friends came up and my tattoo artist friends that drew art for me for free or friends that were working for me for free, I looked at it and said, I owe it to them mostly.
Right.
Because one, they did the work for what? And two, they believed in me. And this is my card, my calling card for life, right? If I can't deliver, they're never going to believe in me again also. So that was the selfish part. But then the other side was looking at them going, yeah, I want to do something to make them feel proud. That company was definitely not an easy one to get off the ground. But
again, your sense of community of like not wanting to let other people down and doing well by other people, I think that's kind of carried through the entire time. For you now, when you look back at the fear that you've had to face and the horror of being misdiagnosed and the fear of like dying, and now you see that you are someone who has converted challenges into successes, both personally and also financially. What are you most surprised at when you look back and reflect on where you were to, somebody that was hustling in 1633, which is MTV, and working ungodly hours and making opportunities and being broke, to now we're in this gorgeous apartment with this ridiculous views. I'm having a hard time trying to just stay focused on you and not just stare out the window and drool.
That view looks way better than me. I hear you.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But when you look back at your experiences, what are you sort of most surprised at?
I mean, I'm still trying to figure out the meaning of success. I don't really know what that means. It's weird. I wake up some days and I feel like my life is I'm so insignificant. I wake up and I say, this is it. I get down on myself because I'm like, this can't just be all of it. I don't know. To me, it's just when you're moving at a certain pace and then it slows down, it's scary.
Yes.
And I feel like I've plateaued a little bit and now I got to kick it up a notch. So I don't know that with success, with being an entrepreneur, whatever the frick that word is to describe a person that just wants to own a business and run it, the goalpost keeps moving. I don't know where the end zone is. I don't want to sound depressed or dark about it. It's actually can be really fun when you see it as a challenge. That's the key. It's like you wake up and you say, okay, new challenge. You can't stop working out. It's not like, oh, I worked out in my, 20s, so I never have to work out in the rest of my life again. That would be amazing. But it's just not what life's all about, right?
I think that's also really cool. It's like, look, I'll speak for myself. I get tired, man. I want to just be able to sit and like drool on the sofa and watch Netflix.
Right.
But your constant want for challenge and growth is also something that's interesting. Let me break this down. You took fear, turned it into something that is positive, that has empowered you, that's also helped filter out a lot of the garbage, that's allowed you to live an authentic life, which I think most people can't even say. The courage to do that, to live authentically. And I'm not talking about just being tattooed, but then you haven't lost this insatiable appetite.
No, I'm hungry.
For personal growth.
Yeah, I'm hungry. Yeah. Because I never feel accepted too. Always, my whole life. I always feel awkward. I was always an awkward feeling walking in the room. I always felt different. I don't want to sound like I'm above it, but it just felt different. Every time I walk somewhere, I'm like, I'm not interested in this, or I don't really feel like the people that I'm interested in talking to, I don't fit in there. It just always felt like I didn't belong. So for me, it was more about having something to talk about, because also, I don't know, to me, I'm not that interesting. I need to do something to like have something to talk about, something new.
Right.
Because everything that I've already done is all news to me. So what else can I do to like engage with somebody on an intellectual conversation If I go out to dinner and I have a really deep conversation with somebody about business or something, those are like the most fun I've ever had usually, because I'm learning, and it's just talking about bullshit never really interests me.
Right.
Unless I'm with my really one or two friends in my life, we can just sit there and make ridiculous jokes and laugh. But like, it's very few times I can do that, you know?
Right. It's interesting that you said that you feel awkward and you
Yeah.
never fit in, because that's something that I feel like I can say. And when I first heard about you, I always thought like you were the cool kids, you know, and I was the awkward one.
No, not me. I mean, back in the day, I had like long dreadlocks, no eyebrows. I was like a weird fucking kid.
No, you were not.
I was a weird kid. I was definitely a little socially awkward, but
I see that was not ever something that I
yeah, I was. I mean, I think I was. I guess I would be perceived as nice, but I was also like awkward. I just never really felt like, yeah. The funny thing is, I'm not alone. That's the beauty of life now. Is the world is so upside down right now, but we're all going through it together, which is something comforting about that. Which I feel like it just resets us to be like, you know what? How do we just engage with people and learn from each other, as opposed to keep fighting?
How are you doing it?
One, I try to avoid certain conversations, but I try to find common ground in conversations, even if I disagree, just to start there and then work my way up to what I believe in.
Okay.
Not start in strongly what I believe in if it's counterbalancing what the opposite is. And a lot of times I try to just listen. I just start by listening, let somebody talk. And if somebody's just a talker, then you're never going to get your point across anyway, or just,
Right.
so you just learn what it is, you just keep it moving. But that's really it. These days, it's just finding your tribe of people that you vibe with.
Yeah. And I think, but that's also sort of the danger, right? The echo chambers that we're all sort of in at this point. And I think the other thing that people may not do is respect one another, to listen to someone else's opinions, you know, or at least point of view. And I think we're living in a culture that's not only instantaneous, but everyone's listening to respond and not listening to learn. Your ability to stay focused on A, being respectful for others, B, community, and never losing sight of the people around you. I also think you're not somebody who deals with bullshit.
I don't like bullshit. Yeah, I don't like bullshit. But you know, the funny thing about it is we're all roommates on this earth.
Yeah.
Right? And if you talk about like Vidiots, you said it was beautiful. It was nice for you. Some people didn't like the red walls of Vidiots, right? So imagine going on in the street and we see it a certain way, somebody else sees it another way. So I've had roommates as a kid, and it's like, okay, so I'll let you buy the couch and you got to let me put the plant there. We just have to figure out a common ground. That's what this is. People forget that we're sharing this earth.
Right.
My apartment, I do whatever the fuck I want. But like out there, it's like we're sharing it. But people are like, this is my this, my that. It's like my city, my America, my world, my country, whatever the fuck it is. It just sounds crazy to me because it isn't.
Right.
We're all here together.
What can we do that you think, because you have jumped industries in many different ways. And I think when you are a business person, I think you have come into contact with many different personalities, some more colorful than others.
Yeah.
And some more stubborn, let's say.
Yeah.
And you've learned how to navigate this landmine of explosive situations and conversations and personalities. How do you stay respectful and still succeed? Because right now I feel like no one is successfully able to do that and see that we are all sharing.
Because you can sit on that mic right now and you can say the most insulting thing to me and I probably wouldn't faze me. That's step one. Step two would be that we would laugh about it. And step three would be we would find something that we agreed upon because you're like, this guy seems cool because he's not reacting. Because you want a reaction from me if you did that, right? If that's what you approach.
Right.
It's just mental karate. Just realizing that people are just people. And it's so funny that everybody takes the bait. You know, stop taking the bait. Stop engaging in that way, but still stay engaged. You don't want to ignore people. You don't want to dismiss people. That gets people enraged too. But maybe you can, again, back in Vidiots, I stepped outside my body, looked at that person coming in. Do the same thing when somebody's having a conversation. Let me see it from your perspective of what you're saying. And okay. And if my life has an effect on you, that's a different story. But if your life, you see it a certain way of something that I'm doing that's affecting your life, I should recognize that and say, okay, this is why I'm doing it, or how can I change that or make it a little better?
Right.
When I first got into this apartment, I have a drum set in the other room and I knocked on my neighbor's doors and I said, hey, I just moved in. I'm your neighbor. If you ever hear me, please knock on my door. I'm learning the walls. Like, I want to make sure I'm respectful. I didn't just come in here and bang away until they complained.
Right.
I didn't know. And nobody's ever said anything. But the first thing I'm thinking about is, what is that? I want to be respectful. That's it. Just be respectful of the people around you.
Considerate.
Considerate. And you'd be surprised how much leeway people give you.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. And then there's a lot of, for lack of better words, jerk-offs in the world that,
I think that's a very nice word you could have used.
Yeah. I mean, believe me, there's a lot of...
You could have said something else.
There are a lot of people that just, will get what's coming to them. It's depending on if you want to do it or life will get it to them. Life usually gets them. And those are the people you just got to navigate around. If it's like completely toxic or aggressive behavior, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Back from our early days and sitting with you now, which has been a minute or two.
Yeah.
Now that we were like in our early 20s, and now we're not in our early 20s anymore. But I really am so happy for all of your successes. But most of all, I'm happy that you remind me that you can succeed without being like a total douchebag.
Okay.
And being
I'm not a douchebag. Okay.
No, you're not a douchebag. Your sense of philanthropic efforts, you've succeeded. Because people are like, oh, if you take, it's not enough.
It's all from friends. Like if friends will hit me up and say, hey, can you join this nonprofit? Or, hey, can you help my son out or daughter out? My first reaction is yes. I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's grab a call. And it's awesome when you have such an impact on a child just by talking to them and just hearing them. As somebody like me, they probably see somebody like me going, oh, it feels probably comforting for them.
Why?
Well, they're used to authority around them and they see me as the anti-authority.
Oh.
And I step into that carefully and I try to guide them and let them know how to maneuver life and respect people, but also hear them out because, I have no history sometimes with them when I first talk to them. And sometimes takes a little while for them to open up, but then when they do, it's fun. And I've always been like good with kids. I love kids. I think kids are so fun because they're so honest a lot of times.
Yeah, a little too much sometimes.
I love it. I love it. A lot of my friends have little kids and they consider me like an uncle. It's so fun. They're exhausting, but
that's why you give them back.
But I can also give them back. Yeah, exactly. I don't have my own, but it's cool because their brains are molding. It's it's such an important phase of a child's life, and you can have such a impact on that. It's pretty awesome if you can use it in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize that. People have kids go, I want to carry my name or whatever the hell their reason is. It's like, no, this is a non-selfish thing you're doing. It's evolution. Whatever I've learned, say I was 30 years old and I had a kid, whatever I learned in those 30 years, I got to get it into that kid's brain as young as they can. So when they're 30, they're advanced and they do it to their child. And that's how you become smarter as a generation of a family.
And as a species, hopefully.
As a species, right. If you can teach other people.
I don't think we're doing that right now.
No, I mean, look, that's the obvious is social media and all the stuff that's going on. But what swings one way, swings the other way. And it's just human nature, which is as bad as it gets, it starts to get a little bit better. And then it gets worse the other way. It goes back. It's just what it is. It's just part of life.
I'll just repeat what I said earlier. I just am so glad for your successes because you have showed up for all of your beliefs and you don't lose sight of the more important things in life. And I think that's hard to do. We're living in a society that's driven by the bottom line and we forget about helping each other out and how it makes us better.
Right.
And how, we're all in it together. I think that sense has been lost. And it's nice to see you, who's come from no money and starting as an assistant editor and working overnights. And you've built this incredible career, but you don't ever lose sight of your beliefs and your truths.
I have in the past, but slips and then you just bring it back. I'm not perfect, but now to me, it's like the journey of life is to every day you wake up, you try to make more money. You try to evolve as a better person. You try to help more people out. That's just the goal. If you can just keep trying to do that, and that makes you a well-rounded individual. But, in the past, it was different. I'm also not in a desperate place right now. So it's easier to talk like this.
Right.
Because when you're not in a desperate place, you can relax a little more.
Right.
When desperate people make sometimes very bad, desperate decisions.
More severe choices. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. That's when you really know the true person sometimes when they're super desperate. I wouldn't consider myself a bad, desperate person. I would claw myself out on my own.
Yeah.
But I've made mistakes. We all have. Right.
I'm saying ultimately, though, your character has stayed the same, if not it's strengthened.
Yeah. That's why I like New York. You're in my apartment. You're like, oh, beautiful place. But we all walk out the same door.
Yep.
Nobody knows where we live. Nobody knows what we have. I have a place in Los Angeles and it's, what do you drive? Where do you live? And
yeah.
So it's a little bit of a different mentality shift when you go out there.
Slightly.
I like LA, but like New York is to me the roots of who I am as a person. You can just blend in with the city and just be like everybody else. There's one funny story that I have. So I was in LA for 15 months. I come back to New York. I haven't been here in a while. And I didn't realize when I went to this real estate company, the guy that owns the real estate company, it's like $1 billion real estate company. He's the one that sold me my place here. And he's come to my office and come meet me. So I said, cool. So I go to his office and I get to the doorman and I'm going to see so-and-so. And the doorman's like, are you picking up or are you delivering?
Oh, fuck.
And I said, no, I'm going to see somebody. He goes, well, what are you doing? You're picking up? And in my head, at first, because I was in LA for a long time, I started to get like, I was like getting pissed. And then I reset and realized this is New York. He don't care if I'm picking up a bag of $1 billion or if I'm picking up a package of deliveries. He don't care. Right. So I was just like, who cares? He doesn't care who I am. Like, why should I? He's not even like insulting me.
Yeah.
He just wants to know where I'm going so he can just go back to what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I realized, I go, that's why I love New York. Yeah, I love that.
Because nobody gives a fuck.
Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares. And it's like they can judge me or say,
yeah.
It's like, it's not really judging. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't really, people perceive it as judging, and I can have a complex about who I am.
Right.
But I'm comfortable who I am. So
you know who you are.
Yeah. So I don't have a complex about, like, oh, do you know who I am? It's like, I would never say that because I don't care.
But that's one of the great things about you.
But I think it's like good comedy. It makes great stories. I have one other story. It's hilarious. In 2009, I did something really stupid and I bought a Lamborghini, right?
Oh, Mike.
And I went to meet my friends for dinner. So I have a button-down white shirt on and I roll up to the restaurant. It's like a $400,000 car. The door goes up.
Yeah.
There's like a whole flashy thing. And I walk out of the car and this girl walks up to me and she hands me, like I thought it was her phone number. It was her ticket. She thought I was the valet because I was wearing like a white shirt. I mean, for me, I look at it and I go, is it my swag or what's going on? Am I just not, do I not look like a rich person?
Yeah.
But you know what? It was life telling me, don't be a douchebag. Stop with this nonsense. Get back down to reality.
Who you are.
And it just made great stories for great comedy. My friends, we laugh about it.
That's pretty funny.
And to me, that's what it's about. That's what life's about. I regret buying that car, but just for that story alone, it actually made
Where the fuck is the car now?
I sold it. Like a year later, I sold it for like half the price.
Honestly, Mike, you've always been grounded. I'm like a little shocked that you've bought a Lamborghini.
You get money and you like, I like materialistic things sometimes, but I don't like flashy things anymore. I went through a little phase where I was like, I want this. Now I'm like, it's very low key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've always been a pretty low key guy.
Personality wise, yeah.
I was like, oh God, you.
I know. It's very embarrassing.
No, but that's a humbling moment to be handed.
Yeah. I got a ticket from her. I thought she was giving me a number. I was like, wow, this is awesome.
What did you say to her?
I should have took her ticket and took her car. I don't even remember. I was like, should have told my friend, jump in the Lambo and I'll take her car and we'll get out of here.
God, that's fucking hilarious, man. I ask every single one of my guests, let me know who you are and what you represent, Mike.
I am Mike Amoia, and I represent an example of an individual trying to go through life and be the best version of myself. That's all. And if anybody can see that and learn from it and inspire somebody to be themselves, then I've done my part.
As I wrap up this episode of Reppin, I want to extend a huge thank you to Mike Amoia for sharing his inspiring journey and his experiences with all of us. It's been a great pleasure to hear about your path from a young music producer to a visionary entrepreneur. And thank you, Mike, for hosting us in your beautiful New York City apartment. Despite all of your success and accolades, you remain so grounded and low-key, and it makes your achievements even more impressive. It's clear that your passion and dedication have been the driving forces behind your remarkable career. I am truly so happy for your success, and I can't wait to see what you'll do next. Thank you once again, Mike, for being with us today. And to you, my listeners, thank you always for tuning in. Please share, subscribe, download the episodes and stay updated with all of the great stories that we work to bring to you. And be sure to check out Mike's latest company, Indelible. I'll make sure I have the links for you in the show notes. Reppin is Suburban Outlaw Productions. Until next time, stand up and represent.